Thank you for joining us at this time. This is news analysis coming to you on Politics and Business Television. The headlines. Federal government gives traders 1 month to crash prices. Alleged terrorism financing. Details from police and Labour president's meeting held yesterday. And then the presidential fleet, 200 families displaced as Nigeria Air Force demolishes houses. Details coming up shortly. Welcome back. I am Idris Amina. Now the news. The Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission has given a 1-month moratorium to traders and other market stakeholders involved in exploitative pricing to crash the prices of goods. The newly appointed Executive Vice Chairman of the FCPC, Mr. Tunji Bello, said this at a one-day stakeholders engagement on exploitative pricing on Thursday in Abuja. According to Bello, the Commission will begin enforcement after the moratorium. He said that the meeting was to address the growing trend of unreasonable pricing of consumer goods and services and the unwholesome practice of market associations. Bello described the Commission's finding that a fruit blender known as Ninja was being sold at a popular supermarket in Texas for $89, which is 140,000 naira. But the same product was displayed for 944,999 naira in a supermarket in Victoria Island, Lagos. Bello wondered about the basis for the arbitrary hike in the price of the blender compared to the ones in Texas, United States of America. He said the unwholesome practices, including price fixing, were threatening to the stability of the economy. Meanwhile, details of yesterday's police interrogation of the president of Nigeria Labour Congress, Joe Ajero, over alleged criminal conspiracy, terrorism, financing, treasonable felony, subversion, and cybercrime by the Intelligent Response Team, an arm of the police, have emerged. Recall that the police had on August 19th invited the NLC president to appear at its headquarters for questioning on August 20th over the allegation. It was exclusively gathered yesterday that the police interview with the NLC president was attended by human rights activist Femi Falana, SAN, Maxo Opara, Deji Adeyanju, and the leader of IRT, DCP, Sanusi Mohammed. According to sources, operatives of the Department of State Services and the National Intelligence Agency were also at the session. The interrogation, which did not last up to 30 minutes, was essentially on the operator of the Eva Valley bookshop on the second floor of Labour House. In response, Ajero said the suspect was only a tenant of NLC and that their relationship was that of a landlord and tenant relationship. Ajero was also said to have told his interrogators that the suspect does not consult for the NLC. Neither was there any telephone conversation or written communication between them. Meanwhile, addressing journalists at Labour House on his return from Force headquarters, Ajero said the whole thing was a distraction because the allegation was baseless, declaring that the Labour movement could not be intimidated. He also went further to declare that the union would not be intimidated by external pressures following his appearance at the Intelligence Response Team headquarters in Abuja. The NLC president explained further that his appearance before the police was in the interest of transparency and to clear the air on the unfounded accusations leveled against him and the NLC, noting that the union would continue to fight for the welfare of workers and stand firm in the face of challenges. In another news, landowners of Nuwalege, Abuja, ejected by the federal government, have called on the government for compensation. More than 200 families who resided in New Walege, a rural community along the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport Road in Abuja, have been reportedly rendered homeless following the demolition of their homes to accommodate an extension of the Presidential Air Fleet. The demolition was carried out by the Federal Capital Development Authority at the request of the Nigerian Air Force. Subsequently, the displaced residents were forced to seek shelter in nearby communities, including Zamani, Sauka, Giri, Ido, Kwakwalada, and others. Details of the PAF project and its funding are not available for now, but there are indications the project would commence soon, as NAF personnel had been mobilized to the project site ahead of the construction activities. However, the affected families said they had not received compensation from the Unyesom Wike-led Federal Capital Territory Administration, the Nigeria Air Force, and the Ministry of Aviation. And according to report, journalists who visited Nuwalige, previously inhabited by Abuja natives and other Nigerians, were prevented from accessing the community by heavily armed Air Force personnel guarding the site. You're watching news analysis live on Politics and Business Television. Still to come, Nigerians react as Okon wins gold for South Africa in 400 meter at World Championships. Details of this and more after the break. Welcome back, and now let's head on to sports, where South Africa's Udeme Okon won gold in the 400 meter final at the 2024 World Athletics Under 20 Championships in Lima, Peru, with a remarkable comeback, clocking in at 45.69 seconds. The victory shared on social media highlighted Okon's dual ties to Nigeria and South Africa, sparking reactions from both nations, while the recent controversy involving Miss Chidinma Adesina underscored tensions between the two countries. Okon's achievement seems to have been celebrated across borders. It is reported that the 2024 World Athletics Under 20 Championships, also known colloquially by its former official title, the World Junior Championships, is an international athletics competition for athletes qualifying as juniors. The event is ongoing in Lima, Peru from August 27 to 31st, 2024. Okon's profile on Instagram page, #UdemeSprint, shows both the Nigerian and South African flag, signifying his ties to both nations. And now the House of Representatives has written to the Canadian government asking it to investigate and prosecute Amaka Patience Sonberg, a Nigerian residing in the country, for making threatening comments against fellow Nigerians of Yoruba and Bini extractions. In a video clip that started trending on X.com on Tuesday, a woman's voice was heard making anti-Yoruba comments during a virtual meeting on TikTok. The woman, who claimed to be a resident of Ontario, Canada, vowed to take poisonous substances to her workplace and harm any Yoruba or Benin person she came across, claiming her comments were in response to the hate against the Igbo. She also dismissed the possibility of arrest, citing her Canadian citizenship as protection, stating that Canada's legal system was unlike Nigeria's, where arrest could be made without questioning. However, the House, in a letter signed by the chairman of Nigeria-Canada Parliamentary Friendship Group, Biodun Omoleye, and chairman of Committee on Diaspora Matters, Tochukwu Chinedu Okere, expressed concern over Sonberg's inflammatory statement, which, according to the constitutes a direct threat to the lives and safety of millions of Nigerians. And now let's head on to education matters, where the Students' Union of the University of Ibadan on Friday rejected the school fee increment approved by the institution's governing council. The News Agency of Nigeria reports that to show their disapproval, the students staged an overnight protest from 10:20 p.m. to 2 a.m. The president of the union, Bolaji Aweda, Vice President Bolutife Abuderin, and Secretary Daniel Elemide in a statement rejected the new fees. NAN reports that the governing council of the university on Thursday approved the increment in school fees of students of the university from 100 to 400 levels and also fixed a deadline for payment. In a statement signed by the registrar and secretary to the council, G.O. Saliu, and available to UCGUI, the decision was reached at the inaugural meeting of the council held earlier on Thursday, and it considered the new levy as recommended by the Senate of the university. Students who have not yet completed their registration, the council said, were advised to do so on or before September 4th. Additionally, the council urged students to take advantage of financial aid such as the Nigerian Education Loan Fund and various scholarships offered by the university and other benefactors to assist indigent students. Still, this is news analysis coming to you on Politics and Business TV. World Bank has been deceiving Africa. We have no reason to be poor, said Obasanjo. Join us shortly as we analyze this statement by the former president. Stay tuned. And now the former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo has expressed deep concern over the level of poverty across the African continent, attributing it to man-made causes rather than divine intervention. Speaking on Monday at the opening ceremony of the First Stack Africa Festival held at the Jomo Kenyatta Stadium in Kisumu, Kenya, Obasanjo emphasized that Africa's abundant resources should have prevented the continent from experiencing such levels of poverty. The former president also criticized the World Bank, accusing it of misleading African nations through its initiatives. He specifically pointed to the structural adjustment programs promoted by the institutions, arguing that these policies were implemented without considering Africa's unique economic structures. Obasanjo stated, "If you look back in history, you will see that whenever others needed to get work done, they came to Africa to transport black people to the so-called New World to make others rich, and that hasn't stopped. The slave trade led to colonialism. We enrich others while remaining impoverished. We need to awaken structural adjustment," was the idea of the World Bank. However, I disagreed because we lacked the structure. What exactly were we adjusting? They were simply deceiving us, the former president added. And now joining me to analyze this statement is Wole Joshua, who is a chartered accountant and tax administrator. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Wole Joshua.
Good afternoon. I'm glad having me today.
Many thanks for always joining us on the program.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So I would love to start by asking, what is your take on this? What is your take on this statement?
General Obasanjo has seen it from many flanks. He has seen it from many angles, and Obasanjo has been able to chairman the leadership of Africa at many forums, at many points in time in life. So Obasanjo has seen it all, and he has given his own mind. Of late, the president has been speaking his mind strategically, attacking or bearing his mind on issues which has to do with structure and strategy of either a nation or Africa in general. Back to the topic, I would like to point it out or cite what President Obasanjo said, because Africa doesn't have any business with poverty. If you look at the African continent itself, it is the largest continent. Not only the largest continent, it has many resources and is well populated after Asia. Having said that, the problem bedeviling Africa is the lack of that structure, as well as lack of the leadership. What I mean by the structure is that Africa has not evolved as the rest of the world has been evolving, and you agree with me that if the evolution is not balanced, it's easier for either of the continent, any of the continent, to take the advantage of others. Instead of seeing Africa as a point of development, many of the continents, when they think about Africa, they think about a large market, they think about a consuming market. Unfortunately, Africa itself has turned itself to what people tagged it to be, in the sense that instead of Africa processing its resources, Africa prefer shipping its resources out of Africa to go and process, developing the economies of other countries, developing the inflation, improving the inflation and monetary policy of other countries, developing the democracy of other countries. When the president said that we don't have structure, he knows what he's saying. An average African man will be unruly in Africa, will be unorganized in Africa. They get into the Western world knowing fully well that he needs to stay. An average African man will conform with the system. Not only conform, they will do everything to improve the system. The recent Japa syndrome, though it looks like what is just bedeviling Africa, but it has been there for long, pouching our best brains. Africa has one of the best IQ in the world, but we are not allowed to harness it. Had it been that there is no opportunity for Africa to leave the shores of Africans to leave the shores of Africa, we will have been forced to develop the continent. But rather than developing it, we believe in getting out of the continent to go and develop other parts of the
yes.
world.
Is it that's the way at cost? Permit me for using that word. What is really the problem? Why are the leaders not utilizing this? Why do we prefer why do we prefer being used when we have all the resources at our beck and call?
Simply because we have options. United States of America has found itself in a point where they don't have option. The European continent has found itself in a point where they have no option than to drive their own continent. Rather, Africa has option in going to Asia, going to Europe, and getting out to many other continents, rather than staying back to develop their country. You see the syndrome, the level of brain drain hitting the African continent of late. You agree with me that those brains would have found solution to many issues bedeviling Africa. So that as it may, Africa has the tendency of growing up with the other continents of the world if we can leverage on technology and if we can leverage on communication. You agree with me that communication is driving the economy of Africa, even if we don't like it. The banking sector in Africa has embraced the ICT facilities to develop their operations. Like it or not, the communication sector has improved. So whether we like it or yes, Africa should be able to leverage on ICT to solve most of its problems, which mostly has to do with the leadership. If we can leave the leadership, if we can leverage above political stance, if we can play around what we call our own politics and democracy, we should be able to grow to grow at the growth of other continents pace. So if we are comparing Africa with many other countries, like we're comparing their GDP, we may not get the right thing out of what we call Africa. But if we are developing Africa in its own pace, we can get the best out of Africa. And if we are looking at the quality of life, if you look at quality of who we give birth to, quality of how we treat our children, if you are looking at agriculture, if you are looking at education, the quality of life of human resources in Africa will develop. And leveraging on these wings of flight, Africa will get out of its problem. So we are not caused. We've not only gotten it right, and we can get it right by leadership. The problem bedeviling Africa, the problem facing Africa currently is my turn syndrome. My turn syndrome in the sense that we are waiting for when it will become our turn to amass wealth, and when it will become our turn to gather much and enough wealth that it will be more than what we need. If we can change our orientation, change our value system to seeing the fact that as much as you don't beg your neighbors for food, as much as you don't beg your neighbors for basic need, you are a king on your own. So you don't need to associate any special value to riches of other greedy people.
But then you said we still have not gotten it right. When are we going to get it right? When? Because the person that even made these statements, the person that put this out, was once a president. What did he do during his period? Why did he not try to solve some of these problems? Why did he not try to make Africa, Nigeria to be specific, a country, let me say a continent on its own?
I mean, what is wrong with Africa is the system, not the individual. Rather than building a strong system, we keep building a strong individual. Obasanjo in his own tenure was a strong man, and he has only 8 years to do whatsoever magic he wants to do. He sought for third term and was never given. I did mean we allowed the party structure to be a system that governs Nigeria. It will have been a party politics which will have been continuum in whatsoever Obasanjo has put in place, which will have been continuum in whatsoever Ebele Jonathan or Baba Buhari has put in place. But we did not allow that. We saw strong men in these people, and whenever they leave office, we pouch for another strong man. When we got another strong man, he start afresh, he tear off all records and start his own policy afresh.
Exactly.
And start his own.
I think that's a major problem in Nigeria. Nobody wants to work with what your predecessor works with. All of us want to start something new. And starting something new will always does not lead us to anything.
Yeah. So we need a good system rather than a strong leader. We need a strong system which we need to build. It now takes a strong leader to build a strong system that will last long, that will be followed by other parties. So if we are going to do this, I believe that we need to either call the CSOs, that is the civil society organizations, we need to call them together, or we call the leaders of thoughts together, or we start from the political party and tell them this is chart a course for Nigeria, whether it is PDP, APC, Labour Party, ABGA that is in power. You follow that template. You may follow it in another way, but you have to get the same answer. If you look at the template we have already on ground, you agree with me that be it APC, be it PDP, they promised to take us to El Dorado, but they never got us there. So there is no party structure, there is no party that is different from another. We will keep on getting the same results because we got our leaders from our citizens, and we got the leadership of our parties from the citizen, not even within the party. Our parties are they lack what we call the party policy, the party ideology. So if we don't have party ideology, we keep on jumping from one party to the other, which doesn't give that structure. So we need a structure that will give us a direction, that will chart a course for us in Nigeria. I will still micromanage it to what we have in Lagos State. You see that the party structure, the leadership structure in Lagos State has a direction, and they've given a template which it is difficult for any other leader, any other governor from Lagos State to deviate from. I believe that most of what we see in Lagos State is what endears many to vote the APC governor, the current APC president in power, to power. So if we can get that model for Nigeria, possibly it will work. But we cannot get that model if that model is not user friendly, if it doesn't cut across the country, if it doesn't give equal competition, if it doesn't give many other things that leaders of thought has put in place. So we need to call ourselves together. We need to take it one step at a time, but we need to chart a course for what we have in Nigeria.
Alright, so quickly, what is the position of World Bank in impoverishing Africa?
Yeah, the position of World Bank in impoverishing Africa is by throwing aids and grants to them rather than investments. We throw aids, grants, and loan to African continent rather than throwing investment to them. If you look at the refinery structure, if World Bank has championed the transportation system, refinery structure, and many other structure, Africa will have invested and gotten itself out of this quagmire. If you look at the abundant natural gas resources in Niger Delta, if World Bank has financed or funded the piping it off the continent to either Europe or Asia country, whatsoever we have as that will have been easily sustainable, rather than giving grants, loan, and aid to Africa, which will see end up in the pockets of in the wrong pockets.
Yes, exactly.
What is the essence of loan given to Africa when it will still find its way either by purchases or by slush fund out of the continent to either Asian countries or the Scandinavian countries? So what is the whole essence of giving those loans, which will not be invested to turn into productive ventures in Nigeria? It's just like giving you loan in one hand, taking it back in another hand, and leaving the African continent with the burden of repayment of that loan.
Exactly.
So if you are going to repay that loan, it becomes a burden because it was never invested at first. It was spent on frivolities. It was spent on acquiring properties outside the country, individual properties outside the country, and leaving the country to the payment. You agree with me that we have a lot of dollars which are questionable. One of which is the Nigerian here. What's the story of Nigerian here? $2 billion, $2.1 billion gone down the drain. So who is paying for it? Nigerians are paying for it, but we don't have Nigeria here as of today. Nigeria here will have generated income which will have repaid the loans, but Nigeria here never come, and we are taking the loan. We have to repay. We are indebted to either the bilateral or multilateral organizations, and we have to repay these loans with interest.
Yes.
But the Nigerian here never came. We have many other things like the refinery. We've taken loans to develop our refinery. The refinery never turned out a liter of petrol. It never turned out a liter of diesel. But we are still impoverished by the repayment of this loan. So who pays it? It is African continent. It is Nigeria. But who takes the benefit? It is the individual. What do they use it to do? They spend it on
for their personal gains
and
all that.
Personal gains.
Thank you very much for joining us on the program for today. Due to time factor, we'd love to stop here. Thank you for always joining us.
You are welcome. Thank you.
And that will be the size of our package for you today. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and always come back for recent news on politics, business, and much more. I am Idris Amina. Bye for now.